Okay, so let's talk about A Little Late with Lilly Singh, alright? So, Lilly Singh is the latest person to get a talk show. Now, in case you haven't been noticing in the last couple of months or a year or something, it seems like everybody's kind of getting a talk show, just so randomly. Matter of fact, they're kind of handing these things out like flu shots to the point where it's just like, the qualifications for a talk show host really must not be that high. You just got to know the right people or just be very, very popular. Like most things in life, it's a popularity contest. And now Lilly Singh is next fighter to step into the ring. So let's see what she actually did on her very first episode. Now, before you start to kind of bitch and complain, and I'm sure people probably will and probably won't, but who knows? I'd be surprised, honestly, on this Tuesday. Yes, this is her first episode, and it's kind of hard to judge it off of that, but I'm still going to do it anyway because why the fuck not? So let's talk about our first episode. It was not the worst thing in the world, but shit was a fucking mediocre as hell. We kicked this thing off with a nice skit, right? A nice little, scripted skit, which I think is actually the highlight of the entire episode. This 30-minute episode, thank God. But only 30-minute episode, and it actually was slightly funny. It was pretty much talking about Lily being herself, dress code, production meetings, and it was actually quite fun, essentially. Talk about Friends be unrelatable, which is 100% true. Friends is not really that great. I'm sure there's a lot of people that like Friends, but fuck you. I'm a New Yorker born and raised, and I can tell you right now, I didn't really like Friends. So, and then we pretty much break into a song and dance, and this is where kind of the highlight of this entire, probably like first 6 minutes essentially is. The song and dance is actually pretty good. Nice choreographed, whatever it may be. It's actually funny. Now she talks about the kind of bullshit about being a brown woman, a woman in general, bisexual, whatever it may be. And, hiring diversity people, not because, it's just mandatory, but because she can. She's in charge. She's the boss, bitch, essentially, right? And that's fun. That was fun. I knew that was kind of going to come to talk about being a woman, talk about being a brown woman, talk about being a minority, just in general. I knew that was going to happen, and it kind of carries over to the monologue, which is also just equally bad, and that's when the show starts to tank. And I mean, it starts to tank really fucking hard. We're going Fury style of tank. And the thing is, the monologue is just basically the skit that she kind of had with the song and dance, which is actually pretty good. And then it's just the same thing. She talks about Slumdog Millionaire jokes. She talks about being a bisexual woman of color. I don't know if you noticed that. She's a bisexual woman of color. They make sure you hear that constantly. She's a bisexual woman of color. She's a brown woman. She talks about, the brown, heroes in pop culture, like the Eminem and Priyanka Chopra and Minnie Kaling, and the list can go on and on and on to about 5. And I think the problem is, I don't know, it just seemed like this entire show was just one big rant of sorts, playfully, I guess, against white males in general. She takes a jab at hey, look at all the white, male hosts. She's the only brown one, her Hassan Minaj. It was slightly funny, but I think the biggest problem is that the crowd. The crowd is full of young people. And I mean young people, little girls, some of them, or these reasonably young women, young adults to begin with. And she mentioned that the audience, they came in for free. And I think all talk shows kind of tend to have these things for free. But I feel like once she said it, it kind of really was stuck in my mind that these people came here for free. So there's really no agenda to kind of boo or hate or whatever. There's just nothing there. And I feel like she wasn't really that funny, and neither was the monologue. None of the jokes was really funny just to begin with, so she really needs to work on the writers. But the problem is, I think the crowd was just kind of forcing themselves to laugh. And either they didn't get most of the jokes, or just simply put, they did not find it funny. And I felt like it was almost like the reverse laugh track, where, laugh tracks kind of, mind control you to laugh it apart. It was almost like Lilly C laughs, and the crowd doesn't think it's funny. But they like Lilly C, so they just I think we should laugh. Why not? And then that's pretty much how it kind of went to begin with. And I don't think it was really good. Now, people are thinking, well, what is she going to be like, Fallon, Seth Meyers? I don't think she's like either of them, which is good, but also bad. I think she's also more like George Lopez. And that's not really a good thing. Just constant racist jokes. And it just didn't really amount to anything. I feel like the racist jokes carried through the 30 minutes, and then they wore thin very fucking quickly. Rainn Wilson came down. He did his white noise machine, and believe me, the emphasis on the white noise, talk about brunches and, braids or whatever it may be. I lost track. It was just cringy. The crowd didn't get it. I didn't really get it. I wasn't laughing. Rainn Wilson I like, but fuck me. Damn. Wasn't very good. Minnie Kaling comes out. Show kind of picks up a little bit, and damn, does Minnie Kaling look very, very good. But the thing is, though, I will have to say that Minnie Kaling, one, she does look good. Everybody be sleeping on Indian women. Indian women definitely, there's a lot of good-looking Indian women out there that I feel like a lot of people tend to sleep on. Priyanka Chopra being one of them, but like in general. But yeah, it doesn't really, her interviewing skills with Minnie Kaling was definitely better than Rainn Wilson. But I just felt like the show just didn't really go anywhere. I felt the biggest problem was that Lilly Singh has charisma, she has presence, and that's great. But I think the biggest problem is that she just doesn't, I don't know, there's just something off about the entire thing that I feel like it just doesn't fully click. And I feel like she needs to figure that thing out very quickly. And I feel like her set just came across as amateur hour. And there was one point, even during the Rainn Wilson thing, where I kind of felt like this almost seemed like a parody talk show. And maybe it was to some people, and maybe it wasn't, and then it just kind of seemed like it was very unevenly balanced to begin with. And like I said, the crowd was just pretty much dead throughout, and it just kind of ended so abruptly to the point where, yeah, the show just didn't seem lively. One, she's in a graveyard shift, so I don't know who's going to watch this. Most of her young crowd, which is probably there in that audience as well, they got a school, so I don't know who's going to really watch this, and therefore it may come across as pretty bad. I don't know why they didn't. To me personally, I feel like they should have put this on the internet, and I think this could have been a late night talk show on the internet. That really could have been something different, but maybe she wanted to branch out and be on actual TV. But that could come to bite her in her very brown ass, because she's a bisexual woman of color. I don't know if you noticed that. But that could actually be a downfall of her to begin with, is she's in a graveyard shift. Carson Daly fucking sucked in the graveyard shift, and now she's in it. And I don't think it's going to work. They want a younger crowd, but that younger crowd would be asleep by the time she probably comes on. Granted, it's DVR, but, it's not really the same per se, but it is what it is. The Lilly Singh show, I think, definitely needs some better writing. Lay off the racist jokes, because if it already wore thin for me, at least, on the first episode, I can only imagine what it would do for other people going forward. But hopefully it's not as bad. But who knows? It could be terrible and it could be worse. But one thing is for sure, and you can take this with a grain of salt. I don't know how this would be reactive to you, but it is better than Amber Rose's show. What? She had a show? Look it up. It was not very good. But that's my thoughts, and that's my, ideas, essentially. So, you know what the deal is. Subscribe and shit. I fucked it up. But anyway, subscribe, comment, share it. Share it. That would be very helpful, actually. But anyways, this review ran on way too long than I wanted it to. But anyways, I hope you like my Jesus background. And there it is. Sign out.